Hi everyone, we're back in the greenhouse today and we're potting up dahlias. It is the end of March and this is a good time to get them started off indoors. You can leave your dahlia plants in the ground over winter if you like, but you do run the risk of losing them in a harsh winter. And here in Scotland, I have tried it before and not had much success. So for me, it's much safer to lift my dahlia tubers in the autumn time, store them over the winter, and then in the spring, get them back up. When should you plant your dahlias out? Well, here in Scotland, I always plant my dahlias outside in the garden after the last frost date. For us, that is the last week in May. So to be completely on the safe side, I always plant my dahlias out in the garden in the first week of June. Until you plant your dahlias out in the garden, you need to pot them on inside and keep them in a greenhouse or in a porch, somewhere where they're going to get lots of light and warmth and be in a frost-free environment. So let's have a look at the dahlias that I've got here. They are right funny looking things. You might think they're like a bunch of sausages, or they might look like little seed potatoes all joined together. You wouldn't think that they were ever going to grow into a beautiful flower, but miraculously they do every year. They're absolutely gorgeous, and the flowers you get from dahlias will come in Scotland in late summer and into the autumn until the first frost then. So let's have a close look at these dahlias. These are what dahlia tubers look like. Now this is quite a small tuber because it's a new one that I have bought this year. Year on year they multiply in size, and this is one that I took out the ground last year and it is a lot bigger. And if you have a look on the dahlia, it's got lots of little tubers all joined together and it has a central stalk here. And when you plant your dahlias up, the tubers are going to be under the compost and you're just going to plant it up to the edge of this stalk here. And you can just see here that this is a little bud starting to form. And when you plant your dahlias up, every tuber needs to have something called an eye on it, and this is where it will start to grow from. So if you have a single dahlia tuber and it doesn't have this little eye bit where the bud is going to come out, it won't grow. And we'll hopefully be able to show you on some dahlia tubers what an eye looks like. They become a lot more obvious when they start to grow, so that's why you don't pot up too early as well as the frost risk. It's also quite difficult to see on a dahlia tuber what is happening, but if you're leaving it till the springtime, you can then start to see where the eyes are, and it's much easier to look and see if you've got a viable plant or where you want to divide it to make more plants. So how are we going to pot them up? I always have a variety of plant pots that I keep just for this purpose, and you need quite large ones for potting up dahlias. The tubers all come in different sizes, so it's quite good to have a selection ready. So every time I buy a herbaceous perennial in the garden centre or get some delivered, I will keep the plant pots so that I've got them for this time of year and my dahlias. So 2 litre pots, 3 litre pots, they might work well. You might even need, if you've got really large tubers that won't sit in very easily in one, you might need something larger, 5 litre pot. To plant up our dahlias, we just need a few things. We need our plant pots in our various different sizes, and we just need some general multi-purpose compost. So we're going to put a little bit on the bottom of this pot here, and we're going to get our tuber, and the tubers are going to point down the way, and we're going to find last year's stalk that's been cut off, and that's going to go at the top, that stem. So we're just going to pop the tubers in like that, and then we just put some multi-purpose compost round about. Like this, and then if you have a closer look here, you'll see where last year's stem was, and it's just up at the level of the soil there, so you can see it. And there's another one done here where you can just see it there. So you don't need to bury that bit, but make sure all the tubers are underneath the compost. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to water up my pots, I'm going to label them, and I'm going to set them aside in the greenhouse. And over the coming weeks, we'll watch and see, and they will start to come back to life. You'll start to see this year's plants and leaves coming up out of the tuber. And then, like I said, we will plant them out in the 1st of June. Before you do that, you'll have to have your period of hardening off, where you're popping them inside and outside the greenhouse for a few hours each day just to acclimatise and get them used to the wind and the rain and the sunny weather. So 6 weeks on, and this is what our dahlia tubers are now looking like. we can see that there's quite a difference actually. We've got some here that have really started to grow really well and others that are just coming through. So you just have to be patient. Some are faster than others, but you can see that there's lots of healthy growth on here. This one here is called Water Lily White on the left hand side, and it's really got going. It's got lots of lovely healthy new leaves on that tuber. And on the right hand side we've got Dark Spirit, which is just starting to come away now. And the reason that they could be a little bit slower getting started this year is because we've had some very, very cold overnight temperatures. The weather has been really quite strange for the last several weeks, where we've had a lot of very strong sunshine and blue skies in the daytime, and it's been very, very dry with no rain. And then at night time the temperatures have shot down and it's been below freezing quite often for a prolonged period of time. But now the weather is getting milder and I can see differences every day when I come in and check on the dahlias, and they are starting to grow away now. The next thing that we need to do with the dahlias is we need to just keep the soil nice and moist, not waterlogged, so just water when it's dry. Make sure they get plenty of light in the greenhouse. We need to keep them inside so that they are away from any frost, because we certainly haven't had our last one, I don't think, this year. And as they grow, we can then decide whether we want to pinch them out or not. You don't have to pinch out dahlias, but if you do remove that top growing tip once they're about 30-40 centimetres tall, you will get more blooms. So that's something I'll show you in a future video when they've got to that stage. And I won't be planting out these dahlias until at least the 1st of June this year. Our last frost date is usually that last week in May, and this year, because of such prolonged frost for such a long period of time, I'm going to be extra careful. So definitely don't plant your dahlias out until the first week in June or later in Scotland. And these are going to give us some beautiful flowers all through the summer and into the autumn.